Confession time. It is Sunday and today is the first day I have really worked on Nil since Friday? I didn't work on it this weekend. I know my goal for Camp Nano was to work on it for an hour every day, but I don't remember if I said this or not, but I definitely said it to myself. Any days that I did more than that, more than an hour, I was going to allow myself to count that in the future, to take a day off here or there if I needed to, and I just needed to. I had a lot of other things to do this week. I'm preparing this week. I've got my teen writing summer camp every day this week from 9 to 12:30, which I am super excited about. And I had a lot of prep to do for that, and also just making sure I am up to where I need to be on all my different clients' projects, so that, because I'm not going to have my normal work mornings this week because I'm going to be teaching. So, you know, that, and I feel like when I finished my last vlog last Thursday, where I had finished with a really good beat by beat outline of all of Act 1, that felt like a natural place to kind of stop and take a little bit of a break from this story. So here's what's happened since then. I haven't completely 100% stepped away from it. I've left the Save the Cat software open on my computer, so it's just always sitting here on my big screen every time I sit down at my desk. And I did actually, mostly in the evening, like after my work day was done, I had a few ideas for the next act, and I was like just taking those notes on those note cards for like what's going to happen in the fun and games. Most specifically, and this is the part I'm most excited about, is I figured out there is going to be a second point of view starting at Act 2. This is like the most important secondary character to the story. I did really think long and hard about whether or not he needed a point of view, and I really think he does. Nil is still going to be definitely the primary protagonist here, but we are going to get into this other character's head. And I wanted, you know, once I decided that, or the reason I decided that is because I could see his arc, and I knew that he had a story that deserved to be told. We needed to see things from his point of view as well. If you remember the company man phrase from back when I was talking about how, in terms of Save the Cat genres, my story I figured out is an institutionalized story, and there is a character in every institutionalized story called the company man, and that is the character who buys into the institution completely. Often this is an antagonist, but they're not always necessarily like a villain. They're just in opposition with the protagonist. I thought my villain in this story was my company man, but I realized he's not. He doesn't buy into the system either. This character is the company man, and while Nil would definitely consider him an antagonist because he keeps getting in her way, he is not a villain at all. He just believes what he's been told. And so he has a lot to learn as well. The other thing I'm super excited about is there was one in the original version of Warps, the one that I wrote, I think it was the second version actually, the one in my 2013 version of the story. Towards the end of it, there was a scene where this one character showed up, and he was so funny. This older adult, kind of bumbly, middle-aged man character, and he was just so funny, and I loved his dialogue. I loved his name. I loved what he did for a living. Like, everything about him was so interesting. And he popped up for one scene. He wasn't a very important character, and I remember at the time thinking, man, I wish I could just make him somehow a character in every scene through this book. He was just so fun. He is gonna be in this book. And even better, I went back and read the scene with him, and he is a member of a organization that I also was super in love with, that just didn't play nearly as important of a role in the original version of Warps as I later wanted him to, because it was such a fun idea. I know I'm being really vague about this. I'm still trying to decide how many details of this story I actually want to share, but that organization and that character are going to be the B-story cast that Nil meets right at the start of Act 2. And Yeah, I can already kind of, I don't think I'm going to struggle with fun and games this time. I think the fun and games in the B story is going to be really quick and easy to plot. I've already got a couple of vague ideas for some of the beats, and yeah, I'm really excited about developing these characters too. So, okay. The other thing is, last week I said I think I want to start drafting Act 1 and see how it goes and how it feels. And a lot of you guys commented and said, you do the same thing. Plotzing. Let's call it plotzing. It's fun. Where you write out the beats, outline an act, and then you write that act. And as you work, if you think of stuff that you want to have happen later in Act 2 or Act 3, you write those beats out. And then when you finish that, you get to Act 2, you get all the beats in a row, and you write that, etc., etc. I feel like that's going to be my process for this book. I did, like I said, I didn't work too much on this book over the weekend, but today I did sit down. I pulled open that prologue beat. I read through what I had, my thoughts on what I wanted to have happen, and I will say I started drafting it, but it's not first draft quality. There isn't a single line in it that I would really want to share with you. I'm looking at it right now, and first I started off just experimenting with the opening line, because opening lines are fun and important, and I have several, like a list of them, and it was just me kind of playing with language and narrowing down to what kind of like how I wanted the story to sound as it opened. What's the voice going to be ish? And then I haven't ever really done this before. I started picturing the scene playing out like a movie, and I just started kind of typing it in as I saw it. If I thought of little descriptions or just like a nice way to shape a sentence as I wrote, then I wrote it that way. But honestly, for the most part, it's a lot of incomplete sentences. It's like me experimenting with a couple of different random descriptions that come to mind, period. not like a real sentence. There's a lot of dialogue because in this opening scene, a group of people are in a kind of covert meeting, and there's a lot of like confusion, and so I threw out a lot of dialogue, and I didn't bother sitting there because these are all like tertiary characters. Most of them are not going to appear in a very important part in the novel later, so I didn't waste a lot of time sitting here and thinking, okay, what's this one's name, and where does he work, and what's his deal, and why is he here, and why is she here, and I didn't bother with that. If I heard somebody say something funny or somebody ask a question in my head, I just wrote down the dialogue and I didn't give it any context, and just had an explanation of why this meeting was being held. This meeting is about Nil. This is kind of a way of introducing the reader to Nil and why she's dangerous and why certain dangerous people are looking for her and what she's done and what she's capable of doing. I'm not explicitly putting it all in there, it's just kind of a hint. Then at the end of the prologue, the group disperses and one of them goes off to go about her business and has a unsettling encounter with a young girl who of course is Nil. And that's how the prologue ends. It ends on a little bit of a creepy note, and I really like how it's shaped. And chapter 1 is going to pick up right where this leaves off, but from Nil's point of view. It's less than 1,000 words. The prologue is going to be short. I mean, I'm definitely thinking even once I flesh it out and make it nice and pretty, it's probably going to be 1,400 words maybe at most. But I think it's a nice introduction to this world and a nice kind of a view for the reader of who Nil is from other people's perspective before we jump into her head. So I suppose this is sort of zero drafting, although for me in the past, zero draft has meant summary. And this is more than a summary. There's a lot of dialogue here, and there's a lot of just playing around with descriptions. It's so incredibly sloppy that I would hesitate to call it a first draft. It's not a first draft yet, but it's a stepping stone. So I think I'm gonna just continue to do that. Like I said, it's about 1,000 words. I'm gonna just keep moving through scene by scene. It did help me think through some of my ideas about who Nil is and why she's dangerous, and how, I think I mentioned before that I want to make sure I'm not overcomplicating things, so it's already starting to make me think about what I need to focus on and what I can cut. Anyway, I've rambled on long enough about this. So here is my plan for tomorrow. My class starts at 9 and I want to be on Zoom and make sure everything is like set up and ready to go at least by 8:45. And I think what I want to do is, I know myself, I work better in the mornings. I will feel better in the afternoon if I get some work done before this class. I don't want to save everything for after class. So I'm gonna be getting up a little earlier than normal. I'm gonna try to take Rosa on a run because I think I need to do some exercise before I'm sitting in this chair for 3.5 straight hours. And then hopefully I will be able to do at least 30 minutes of work on this book before my class starts. And then in the afternoon, I will do whatever client tasks I have to do and do the other 30 minutes on nil. And we're just gonna go from there. So tomorrow is Monday, day 1 of class. Let's see if that's actually how things go down. Alright, that was a total success, I think. Got up, felt good, took Rosa on a run, made my coffee, and I got about 500 words written in the next scene in this book. I'm close to the end of this chapter. There's a lot of stuff that I really skimmed over. So this afternoon I'm gonna try to go back and like flesh it out a little bit more and then finish the chapter, but I'm pretty pleased with that. This is great. I mean, it's only 8:30, so my class starts in half an hour, and I definitely want to be on Zoom and have everything set up in case anyone's early by like 8:45. But before I forget, I made a note to myself to tell you guys. So several weeks ago I mentioned that I'm going to be I was invited to give a talk at the Find Your Next Reader Summit, and I have some more information about that. It's a 4-day event and it's all about finding an audience as an author. I'm really excited about this. I've only had time to just glance at the lineup so far, but I can tell that there's a lot of talks that I'm gonna want to attend for sure. There's one on podcasting. I love podcasts. I have always wanted to start a podcast. I just didn't know what it would be about, but I'm definitely gonna attend that just because I think it's gonna be really interesting. And I mentioned this a few weeks ago to you guys, but Daniel, the organizer, asked me to give a talk about YouTube for authors. And I'm still definitely having some imposter syndrome there. And like, I haven't been doing this for very long, and it's not like I have like a super big channel or whatever, but I think that's kind of the point of this event, because, you know, I think we're past the point now where it's like, oh, you have to have a huge social media following. You have to like, you know, get on Instagram and get like thousands of followers and blah, blah. I think people are starting to realize that engagement and actual relationships that you build are far more important than, you know, numbers. So after being on YouTube and working on this channel for 1.5 years, I do feel like for someone who's starting from zero, I have some thoughts and some advice to share. So I'm really excited about my talk for that. And this whole event, I should have led with this, bearing the lead here. It's free. It's totally free. So check the link below if you want to sign up. There is also a paid pass, and if you want to buy that pass, I think it's $57. I'm not quite positive, but if you buy that pass, then you get lifetime access to all of the talks. Some of them will be pre-recorded, and some of them, like mine, are going to be live. If you buy the pass, you can watch them whenever you want. But if you want to show up during the 4-day event, you can watch everything for free. Buying the pass is also going to get you some bonus content from a lot of the speakers, myself included. I'm gonna be making a bonus video and PDF that just goes through all the gear I use on my YouTube channel, you know, camera and lights and microphones and all of that stuff. So yeah, check that out. I would love to see you there. Last year's, what was it called? Escape the Plot Forest Summit was super fun. I really want to say like thousands of people attended. It was kind of overwhelming, but in a really good way. So I'm really hoping for a great turnout this year as well. And yeah, I would love to see you there. Okay, so I am going to replenish my coffee and get ready to teach this class. And then I will check back in this afternoon and see if I can get this scene done. Here we go. You know that scene in Stranger Than Fiction where Will Ferrell is following Dustin Hoffman around a college campus and he's like talking and Dustin Hoffman is like, he has a cup of coffee and then he stops to refill the cup of coffee in the hallway, and then I think he even like drinks his coffee while he's taking a piss, and then he finishes off his coffee as he walks into his office, and then he goes over to his office coffee maker, which is filled with coffee, and he fills his cup with coffee again. I don't think I've ever felt more seen as a teacher than I did when I saw that scene. So that was an awesome first day. I remember thinking this last summer, and I'm gonna say it again. First off, I am in awe of teachers, like full-time classroom teachers, who did what they did this last year, whether it was all virtual teaching or all classroom teaching with all the masks and the separation, or the dreaded combo of balancing both a virtual class with an in-person class. How did y'all do it? If you're a teacher, you are appreciated, by me at least. There are things I just really do love about virtually teaching. When I used to teach summer writing camps, I taught them every summer when I lived in New York, so 6-7 summers in a row, and I'm talking like at least 9 to noon, but most of them were 9 to 4, full day, intensive summer camps with kids and teens. And the organization where I taught was in the Upper West Side of New York, and I lived in Queens, and I'm not going to go into all the geography of New York, but suffice it to say, it was a long-ish train ride, not because the distance was so long, but because the MTA. So those mornings would be waking up at 6:30 at the latest and hoofing it out the door. No time to have a nice relaxed morning. Like, it was up and out as fast as I could. Standing on the train platform, it was already sweltering hot outside. There was a fairly busy stop right before my stop, so the train would be pretty full by the time it got to me. I usually didn't get a seat, and no matter what, 2 stops later, we would be packed like sardines. I mean, this was rush hour. And we would be sardines all the way across the river and into Manhattan. So by the time, and I had to do a transfer, and the next train would be just as crowded, and by the time I would actually get to camp, it usually took 45 minutes if I had a great day, usually more like an hour. By the time I got there, I would need a shower. I would feel so disgusting. So I love being able to just get up and do my thing in my apartment, and then when it's time, just sit down at my desk, turn on the computer, here's Zoom, and let's start class. Like, that part of it, oh, it's so great. It's so great. But it's so weird because classroom management is just an incredibly different thing when you're teaching virtually, because you can't tell if they're engaged, or you can't rely on what you usually do as a teacher in front of the classroom. Like, when I'm giving an in-person workshop, I can look and see, I can make eye contact with kids and see if they're with me or not. But you can't do that on Zoom. Even if, I'm not even talking about the kids who don't turn their cameras on, which some of them don't turn their cameras on, and that's their choice. But even if their cameras are on, eye contact isn't real, and I can't read them. And then you can only see like 4 kids at a time at the top of I don't know. Classroom management is a different thing. Like, on the one hand, I'm sure if you're a teacher and you know what I'm saying, like, classroom management is super easy when you can mute everybody. Not that I needed to do that, not at all, but I can imagine with like a bigger class, if you're dealing with like a class of 30 kids, we've all been there. We've all been in front of a big classroom where we wish we had a mute button, right? Anyway, this all sounds like I'm complaining. I'm not. That was a great morning. I miss teaching so much. I know I talk about that a lot, but and there's something about teaching a creative writing camp over the summer where the kids who sign up for it are kids who obviously just really love writing. It's the best. It's awesome. The TA and I had a little chat afterwards, and she was like, I haven't even, because she's in law school or about to start law school, she's like, I have to read so much nonfiction. I haven't even been reading fiction for the last couple of years, but this was so inspirational reading their stories. I just want to read a bunch of fiction now. And it makes me feel the same. It just makes me remember what I love about telling stories. It's just helping kids write theirs, reading their stories. It's just the best. And these kids are awesome. It's going to be a really good week. That was really long-winded. I just need more coffee. I'm also very glad I did what I did. Got up in the morning, did that run, wrote those 500 words because one of my students, all of them, we set a goal for today for a project, a story, something that they want to finish by Friday. And one of my students told me that she has been writing a book and wanted her project to be to continue working on that book and write a certain number of pages or chapters, which is great. But if I'm going to help her with it, I want to read what she has. So she sent me what she has so far. It's like 40 something pages. So I am going to need to take, an hour, I guess, this afternoon and read that and catch up on her story. And also get this vlog edited and uploaded because I have not even started that yet. Eek. So I'm extra glad that I did what I did on my book this morning, because I can already feel that I would have blown nil off today if I hadn't done that. But not only did I get that 500 words done, but I stopped towards the very end of the scene and I had momentum, and I think it's going to be really easy for me to jump back in and finish it. So I am going to do that today. I'm going to get that scene finished and hopefully wake up tomorrow morning and start fresh with another scene. So that is going to be it for this vlog because I have some work to do. Real quick, a reminder about that free summit. I just realized I don't think I even said the date this morning because I'm on top of things, and I can't think of it off the top of my head. It's the end of July. I will put it on the screen somewhere. Totally free 4-day event about finding readers, and I hope you can be there. I did double check, and right now the early bird pass, if you want lifetime access to everything, is $46, not $56. But again, you don't have to pay. It is a free event. Links down below. Ask me any questions you've got about it if you have questions, and I really hope I see you there. And that is going to be it for this vlog. Let me know how your writing is coming along this week, and I will check back in with you guys with another vlog on Friday. Bye.